With us right now is Bishop Aubrey Shines. Aubrey is the founder of Glory to Glory Ministries, located in the inner city of both Tampa and Orlando, Florida. Chicago native, began ministering in the Cook County Correctional System in Chicago, Illinois. Bishop, an honor to have you with us. Thank you. It's been too long since you and I have been able to get together on the radio. But look at in my devotion time this morning, I just felt like God was saying, you need to talk to Aubrey.
Oh, how kind is that? And again,
well, it's beyond kind. I mean, because we're looking, we're looking for God. I mean, I'm even watching a video here where, and these are, Antifa types that have been creating all this problem. A car runs over one of the girls. It looks like a girl that the car ran over, and you hear the person saying repeatedly, "Oh my God, where is God?" It's like, well.
Well, unfortunately, Bill, this is what happens when a society divorces itself from God, the very God they divorce themselves from in a time of crisis. They're asking, where is God? And again, what we're really seeing, as sad as it is, I think there's a side of this coin that I think every one of us, and I think in all honesty, and this is not flattery, that the majority of your audience really understands, and that's this, that while every untimely, unjustifiable death is a sad thing, this is an anomaly as it relates to police that are, quote, brutalizing or killing people. Because these statistics, and I'm a person who's given to science, these statistics don't add up. Case in point, my hometown of Chicago that I once lived in over 20 years ago, just this weekend alone, more than a dozen people, this is not, by the way, rioting. This is just a norm as it was on the Memorial Day weekend. When you have 10, 20 people that are shot dead, 60 to 80 that are shot, that are wounded, that did not die, they're not from police officers. They're not from white people that are doing this against blacks. But these are blacks that are killing blacks. You're talking 96%. And so if there is a moral outrage as a result of this is unfair and we're looking for justice as the Black Lives groups continue to echo, then where's their outrage there? Where's their outrage when over 20 million abortions have happened specifically in the black community?
Exactly.
By the way, Bill, and you know this, by a organization that was founded by a white racist eugenicist, Margaret Sanger. Where's the outrage? I assure you that what we're seeing does not represent the humanity from black and whites in America. We realize there's a problem, but again, the due process has already begun with these crooked officers. Let that play out. They're already arrested. Let the courts do what they're doing. And again, it doesn't represent facts, and that is what the mainstream media continues to push before people because it sells.
Exactly.
It helps audiences, and we should all be black and white, Hispanic alike. We should be appalled at it.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and you read that commentary that I wrote that the Reactionary Times is running, is that if we let go of the higher ideal, we're in trouble. And this is where we are right now. We've allowed the media, we've allowed institutions to define us, to hyphenate us, to divide us. And we have let go of the greater call. Beyond we are Americans, when it comes to the greater and grander picture of 7 billion people in the world, we're all human beings.
We are, Bill. And think about the hypocrisy, what, in my opinion, you just surfaced. When we think about the media, celebrities, entertainers, while they're calling for, and I have proof of this, as I'm sure you do, while they're calling and supporting these rioters, and again, I don't begrudge anyone or besmirch anyone for having a fantastic lifestyle. They're living behind gated communities. They themselves have bodyguards. And even the ESPN writer who recently, he was all on board until they came near his neighborhood, and he turns around and calls the same people that he was just supporting these animals, and look at what they're doing. And you think about the hypocrisy, whether it's Sean Diddy, whether it is Colin Kaepernick. These guys are no more than pawns in a bigger scheme of something. And I'm not talking necessarily about some conspiratorial thing that is happening and some great puppet masters pulling strings here, but the same lack of education, the same ilk that these guys are espousing, they're hypocrites too, because again, if we're going to talk protests, Bill, just go back, let your audience go back and look at those like Alveda King's uncle, who I work with all the time here. Go back and look at the protests in the 60s. These were men and women, black and white, Hispanic alike, arm in arm, suits and ties, nonviolent, and now we call these protesters that they really have a cause. This is chaos. And this is no more than those that are trying to subvert America, divide us by race, don't see the bigger scheme of things for one reason. It continues to keep certain individuals in power. And until there's an awakening to that, we're going to continue, unfortunately, to spin this bottle, and it will continue to land in the same area, and we'll continue to see this degrading of this great country called America by people that actually hate it in their hearts.
Well, I tweeted out over the weekend that we had a black president for 8 years.
Yeah.
And how did he do in handling this? And they expect Donald Trump, in 3 years to solve this problem. There's no doubt that this is systemic because it speaks to the very heart of all of humanity. This is what's coming out. And last time I checked, Barack Obama nor Donald Trump are spiritual heart surgeons, are they?
Not that I know of. And I tell you this, compare the records, and you'll see a better record with Trump versus Obama, even on this issue.
Well, and I think sadly, because to your point, the former president bought into this militant idea. And I saw a picture of Keith Ellison. He's the Attorney General for Minnesota, and he's holding the manifesto, the manuscript for Antifa, like an implied endorsement. What is all that about?
It is an endorsement, isn't it?
Yes. I'll tell you, we've got to go to break. We've got more from Bishop Aubrey Shine. As if you need to be told that. You're not going to hear this kind of conversation on most talk shows across the country, and I understand. But look, we have to pursue the truth no matter where it leads. That is our commitment. That's the reason I came back to radio after being gone, for almost 25 years, being away from the microphone. This is what I feel God has called me to do. And I said, God, look at it. This is what you want me to do. Then number one, I can't do it without you. And number two, I have to be committed to the truth. And I just pray that your blessings would be upon the show and those that hear the message that's being taken, that's being put forth, because as we understand, we can be in a situation where it's the wrong gospel, wrong church. And it's most interesting right now in light of everything that we've gone, the expense of COVID-19, how our country has been under attack, and is if we didn't need this. But maybe, Bishop Aubrey Shines, America did need this.
Yeah, I think it does. And I'll tell you why, and I know that sounds like almost a contradiction of thought process, but let's all consider just a few things here for just a moment. And I like putting it this way because, I'm given to science. Think about this. Why is it that America, by the way, both black and white, why are they this enraged? Now, again, I'm not taking away from the untimely, unjustifiable deaths of anybody. I don't care what color you are. That's irrelevant. Why is it this type of outrage? And here's the question. But when blacks kill blacks, there's no outrage. Why is it that, oh, my God, the world must now burn down, but the world doesn't burn down when it's 95% of one group killing the same group? Yes. There's nothing there. And it reminds me, Bill, of this. And again, I can't help this as reality. When I worked for, as I still do in some advisory position, even with this current president, I traveled for him. I did various things, talk shows, et cetera, opened up for him across the country in large 20, 30, 40,000 type gatherings. the impact of that for me wasn't felt, honestly, until Hillary Clinton wrote her book of why she lost. And by name, the only clergy in America she put in that book is the gentleman you're talking to on the phone right now.
Yeah.
And she said things about me because of my support and the videos that I have produced. Again, never arguing the facts, just the reality. How dare you speak the truth is what she should have said. Mm-hmm. Because in speaking truth, you've turned voters away from me. Well, in these cases here, Minnesota, Georgia, etc., it's the same, in my opinion, narrative. While these deaths are horrible, the reality is different than the deaths themselves, and that is, we as American, and I include all of us in this regard, we are responding to something that is not factual. Yes. Police officers are not, in the words of LeBron James, hunting down black people and killing them like this. No, that's just not factual. And what happens in a country, Bill, when we no longer are able to address in a very civil, diplomatic way each other, even if we have differences, with facts versus emotion. And if we find social media outlets that will only push the false, non-scientific argument, then all of us should realize we're in a battle of real truth versus what is false.
That's the bottom line.
This is where we are,
exactly.
And we must address that.
Yeah, we're being worked, and we're being worked big time by all the I hate broad brush deals, so I correct myself. But you know who they are, the ones that are out there with reporting anonymously, fake news, that are hyphenating we the people, so that we can be bifurcated and, divided and conquered. This is what this is all about. I mean, you don't have, and I keep trying to remind everybody, Bishop, when the Founding Fathers first came together and the dream and this idea of this American society and liberty came about, it wasn't like there was 1,000% agreement.
Right.
So there will never be 1,000% agreement, but there has to be enough force and momentum for that which is good and right and noble and, is loving toward one another. That has to carry the day. And right now, this is why people, as I mentioned earlier, why people are crying out for leadership. And I go, okay, well, where is all these black leaders that have gotten a ton of money over the years? I mean, since President Johnson signed the War on Poverty bill in the mid-'60s, about $25-30 trillion have been spent. And what do we have to show for it in terms of the war on poverty? I
can tell you what you're showing. In every one of those communities where one's race/gender is the objective, I can tell you what you'll find. Complete, abject failure. That's it. That's what you're going to find. Show me the communities that don't adhere to those entitlement-minded programs, identifying people with one's color, one's gender. You'll find success. You'll find budgets in those states that are balanced. You'll find a harmonious relationship between all people. And again, I'm not some extremist, of course. We're always going to have certain challenges in our nation. But that doesn't represent the whole. When I hear the lies that, this nation is racist, it's ridiculous. Not when the majority of the white people in America voted for the same black man 2 separate times. If every black in America voted literally 13.4% all blacks, even those that were infant, if they could vote, they still could not have put Barack Obama, Hussein, in office. Mm-hmm. So it was whites that did it. So don't give me this narrative when I hear it that, we're racist. We're not racist. When you look at the numbers of marriage as it relates to interracial marriages, just 40 years ago, if you would have asked, and it was asked, that was almost the measuring rod as to what a nation should look like. The majority of the people didn't think that interracial marriage should happen. Now, those numbers have not only totally flipped, 80% of people just really don't care. So when I hear these false narratives, again, I go back to the science. What is the science teaching us? What is the data? Are police officers really gunning people down? Bill, it's a lie.
Yeah.
It's a lie.
Well, Aubrey, let me ask you this. I always take people back to the Civil War. I asked them, I said, do you realize how many non-blacks died in the name, to abolish slavery?
They can't want to hear that, Bill. There you go with your facts again.
Sorry.
Because, again, to bring that up is to bring up a reality that kills the narrative of the Louis Farrakhans. It kills the narrative of the Al Sharptons. It kills the narratives of the Jesse Jacksons. And I tell you, when I speak like this is why I'm always invited on so many shows everywhere. The reality of it is facts win out every time. And when people can access them, I always see, Bill, a reformation of mind where men and women of color specifically are changing their thoughts, changing their tune. This is why even right now, in the midst of this chaotic time that we're in, 30+% of even blacks are still supporting Donald Trump.
Right.
You won't hear that on the mainstream media. Why? Because people are realizing that there is a systemic problem, and it's not, quote, a political party. It's not even the color of a particular man or woman. It's an ideology that has decimated America. And it doesn't matter what color it's in, because we've seen that in the failed, inept policies of Barack Obama. People are awakening, and the world is shaking because there's a transformation that's really going on.
The challenge we have, Bishop, is that in the face of all these, emotions and chaos that's flying around, we do have a choice. And the choice is clear. Are we going to choose peace over chaos or not? Because what we're talking about here, true change that will get us out of this bitter, repetitive cycle will happen in the arena of peace, not in the arena of chaos, right?
Well said, Bill. And if we abort that concept, all of us collectively will fail.
Bishop Aubrey Shines has been our guest, founder of Glory to Glory Ministries, located in the inner city of both Tampa and Orlando, Florida. A Chicago native, as you heard him say, who began ministering in the Cook County Correctional System in Chicago, Illinois. Bishop, thank you so much. I appreciate the inspiration and the